Hi everyone, Ashley here for the Penguin Palace Stamps YouTube channel, and today I'm going to be sharing this card that uses almost like a wreath stencil effect using the vintage basket stencil from Penguin Palace Stamps. So without further ado, let's get into it. Like I said, the technique that I'm using in this video is a wreath with stencils. So I've got this wreath builder outline stencil here, which I actually just made myself out of some vellum. It's really easy to do. You just take a piece of vellum and then die cut a square into it at the horizontal angle as well as at the 45-degree angle. And that allows you to do 45-degree stamping or stenciling in this case. This technique is actually based on a video on Jennifer McGuire Ink's channel, so I've got that video linked down below if you'd like to learn more. She explains it in a lot more detail. I'm using some rainbow distress oxide ink colors, which you can see at the top of the screen there. So I've got a red, orange, yellow, green, a teal, blue, and then off screen I've got a purple and a pink. So basically the key thing for this technique is to have 8 colors because we're going to be rotating the paper 8 times. You can repeat colors if you'd like. I just knew that I wanted a rainbow effect, so I chose 8 different colors in rainbow order. So what I'm doing right now is lining up the stencil, and again, this is a vintage basket stencil from Penguin Palace Stamps. It's a really cool stencil with a geometric, almost like X's pattern that looks like the weave of a basket. I'm lining it up along the right side of my paper, leaving about an inch or so of stencil over the paper, and that's where I'm going to ink. And then I'm putting some purple tape along the top of the stencil, and this is almost going to act like a hinge, where when I fold the stencil up, you can then remove the paper from underneath but leave the stencil in the position that it was in. So you can see me just pulling the stencil up there to test it out. So I'm starting with the paper, and this is just a nice paper for blending. I think I'm using Strathmore paper, but you can use any white paper for this. And I'm taking my foam blending tool and applying the distress ink onto the paper through the stencil. I'm being very careful not to allow any of the ink to come off the stencil towards the left side of the paper there, but you can make this even easier on yourself and actually mask that area off with tape as well. I just didn't bother for this, and I just very carefully inked only the part where the stencil was covering. When you're done inking through that stencil, what you're going to do is you're going to take a cloth or a paper towel and just wipe the excess ink off, and then rotate your paper 45 degrees, as you can see I've done here, and then take your next color of ink and ink through the stencil again. Then rinse and repeat. So basically this is just doing the same step over and over and over 8 times until you have the whole paper completely covered all the way around the edges. So again, just for each step, you line your paper up underneath your stencil to make sure that it's only covering that inch on the right side. You ink through the stencil so that you've got your color inked onto the paper. Then you remove your paper, wipe down the stencil, and I'm wiping down the area underneath too just to remove any excess ink. And then you rotate your paper 45 degrees, put it under the stencil again, and repeat. So you just do this for every single color all the way until the end until you've got all the colors going around your paper. You can see that the pattern starts to overlap on itself. So if you look in the corners, you can see areas where multiple colors are overlapping. So it becomes a little bit muddled, but once you've finished all the colors all the way around the edges, it kind of makes sense when you look at it. So don't get discouraged if you start and you're like, this looks like garbage, and you stop. Just keep going and just see what you think of it at the end. And I'm fairly sure that you'll actually like it by the end. So the other cool thing about using this technique with this particular stencil is that you end up getting that cool pattern in the middle where it leaves almost like a rectangle open. And as you notice at the beginning, and as you'll see throughout the video, I actually end up using that negative space to create like a focal point on the front of the card. So it's really cool, and it kind of creates a neat edge too, and it looks like a really nice finished pattern. So there's the pattern that you get with this technique. I really like how using those rainbow colors creates that really neat bright rainbow effect. So like I said, I'm going to fill in the focal point of this card with a nice sentiment, and for that I'm using the Congratulations set from Penguin Palace Stamps. This set is really nice because it has that big congratulations sentiment, and then it has a whole bunch of accessory sentiments, so you can kind of say congratulations for almost any occasion that you can think of, and it's got a really nice variety in there. So I'm just stamping out the congratulations words onto some white paper with my Misty stamping tool. but you do not need to use a Misty stamping tool if you don't have one. You can just stamp this the regular old-fashioned way with an acrylic block, and that would be totally fine too. I'm just using some black VersaFine Onyx Black ink here and stamping that out. The thing that I do like about the Misty stamping tool, if you happen to have one, is that it allows you to stamp things twice. So if it doesn't stamp perfectly the first time, you can always stamp it again. So there I have my congratulations sentiment onto a white piece of paper, and I'm going to be putting this right in the middle of the card as sort of a standout focal point. I'm then stamping one of the accessory sentiments beneath, and for that I'm using this clear piece of plastic that has a grid on it to make sure everything's lined up. And I just used that sentiment, "I'm truly happy for you," because I figured that was a pretty generic sentiment and it would mean that I could use this card for almost any congratulations event that I wanted to. I knew that I wanted to pop up that card front that I had done all the stenciling onto some fun foam to give it a little bit of dimension on the card. So I'm just applying some double-sided tape to the fun foam here and then putting that onto my white card base. I can then pop that card front on, and the card is actually almost done. I'm just cutting some banner edges into that congratulations sentiment so that it has a little bit more of a finished edge to it, and then I'm going to pop that as well up onto some foam squares to give it even further dimension onto the card. And then the card will be basically complete. So that's the card for today. It's actually a very simple card to come together once you do the stenciling, and I think the stenciling gives it a really bright, bold, and interesting visual effect. And it's definitely a technique you can try at home with any stencil you might have, but this vintage basket one works really well. So thanks so much for watching the video today. To see more cards using Penguin Palace stamps as fun products, please go visit their Instagram account. And I'll see you here next time for the next video. Bye!